Hi everyone, Dan Dugan here from Edge Small Business Consulting. I'm here with Neil Macdonald from Fairway Financial. How are you, Neil?
Hey all, good Dan, how are you?
Good, thank you. Today, I just want to talk to Neil about some of the pros and cons about outsourcing workers, generally overseas. Obviously, a hot topic recently, and more small businesses are using these. So, I just want to ask Neil three quick questions around this topic, if that's all right.
Fire away, Dan.
Perfect. So I guess my first question comes to, in your experience by using outsourced workers, I guess what are some of the pros and cons for using the outsourced workers?
Yeah, well, I'm 28 years as a business owner, and we have been always just onshore in the office. You've got to come into the office to work. I think that through the COVID, everybody's got to go and work from home. We all got set up pretty well and saw that things could work more efficiently. We had better systems in that way. And then as we've looked to put on more people, we've found it more difficult to find them here locally, but they're readily available, well-trained and highly intelligent people overseas. So that was sort of our prompt for, okay, we need more people. Definitely the pros are the lower cost to have somebody. And I guess that's probably the big attraction. We've organised our offshoring through a company that organises the people for us. So we're not directly connected with the employee, even though they are us only. There's an intermediary in between that. And I found that very reassuring as an owner that they're Australian and I've met them and they're organising their team and they've got well over 100 VAs doing this. So some reassurance on that was good. Probably the downside is just not quite having the same culture in the office. Like I get a lot of value out of rubbing shoulders with people, and I can, try out my dad jokes all day and everybody gets to enjoy those in the office. But unfortunately that somebody misses out overseas. So probably culture for that, I think, doesn't quite land.
Excellent. Probably the next one is, I guess when utilising the outsourced workers or your overseas workers that you've got on, what are some of the key strategies that you've needed or wanted to implement with them to make them, I guess, the most effective for your business?
Yeah, this was a real learning curve for us in that when we put on a new person here, we can probably take more time to work with them, just watch how I do this over my shoulder and pick things up as you go. At the time, we weren't as organized with systems. And that was our downfall early on, is that the overseas worker would really only do what we directly told them to do. They weren't able to think out or just ask a quick question like, as I'm doing this, is it that or that? If it wasn't covered, they didn't cover it. They didn't know it. So there was, the learning from that is if you're going to ask them to do things, you have to absolutely step out item by item. And they're totally fine with feedback on, sorry, we've missed something because we're not getting the output we wanted. Yeah. They really want to please you and do the right thing, but they're not going to think for themselves, is probably my experience.
Yeah, fantastic. And probably the last one, Neil, is what sort of industries do you think sort of most benefit or could most benefit out of having overseas or outsourced workers?
Well, definitely if you're doing work on a computer, that's the connection point. I wouldn't think that people in the plumbing industry are getting lots of value out of putting on a VA plumber. Can't do anything. So definitely finance and accounting and stuff like that. The real estate, marketing, I think, is a big one. Like there's some my experience is there's some pretty switched on young people overseas who can get a lot of stuff done marketing wise, really schmicko and way more effective than me dotting around on different stuff and trying to add a little emoji. But so I think there's lots of scope if you're on a computer and there's a repetition to stuff. They're very, very, in my experience, really good at the repetition type work.
Fantastic. So just to sort of tie that in a nice bow. Basically, with our client base, probably about 50%, maybe a little bit under, used sort of outsourced type workers. Exactly what you said, mainly around that VA role. Obviously, real estate and finances they use quite heavily. And coming back to your point about the plumber, whilst the overseas worker can't do the actual plumbing work, I have seen it in the back office function as well. So there are definite benefits around something that considering it. And as you mentioned before, there's usually that intermediary between yourself and the worker to ensure that you're, I guess, compliant with all the laws and things overseas as well. That's something you just got to be very mindful of. So thank you so much for your time, Neil. Oh, sorry.
On the plumber, I didn't think of this before, but on the plumber, if the plumber's looking to promote themselves, like do marketing and get their stuff out there, there's heaps of people that could help from overseas at a much lower cost.
Absolutely.
Could be worthwhile.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you so much, Neil, and we'll chat soon. Thank you.
Very good.